The Lifestyle Show, presented by Selena Mackenzie.
Now, modern life urges us to push relentlessly for what looks like success and to be resolute in avoiding anything less. But at what cost? Now, apparently burnout and disillusionment are on the rise, but there could be another way. And I'm hoping that our first guest has the answer for us. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ross G. White.
Pleasure to be with you. Thanks for the invite.
So, is there another way? And if so, what is it?
Yes, I think some of the messaging that we're subject to, maybe through social media streams, urge us to be relentless in pursuit of our goals. And of course, those posts are skewed towards people who are working incredibly hard to try to achieve goals and may not be representative of the best way forward. There's no doubt that traits such as relentlessness or dedication, dare I say obsessiveness, can have their place. But if we're going to be relentlessly relentless, we will burn out. And that's what really prompted me to write the book, The TRE that Bends, that really lays out a pathway forward for people to have a more sustainable approach to both performing well and feeling well.
Why the title, The TRE that Bends?
Yeah, I have done work in sub-Saharan Africa supporting forcibly displaced populations, refugees. And I was in Uganda and I was sitting with some colleagues from the university in Kampala. And we were talking about some of the challenges of doing this work. And there are many obstacles to trying to support refugees. And one of my colleagues from Uganda turned to me and he said, yes, but the wind does not break the tree that bends. I just thought that was a beautiful proverb that really captured this notion of resilience. Too often, I think we can try to be rigid in the face of some of the storms that blow up in our own lives. And instead, I think flexibility, having the ability to have difficult thoughts and feelings and still commit to doing what matters, is a key for that sustainable approach to pursuing our outcomes.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you mentioned burnout, which is a big buzzword at the moment. And I do quite a few interviews about the very thing, burnout. And I don't know if it's because people are burning out more or just because we're talking about it more. But I think there's a strive for perfection, isn't there?
There is. Yeah, we can fall into traps around perfectionism. And unfortunately, we exist in cultures that reinforce that perfectionism. That if we are working incredibly hard to try to pursue perfection, that can often lead to good results. But my concern is that in seeking those good results, we end up having that experience of burnout. And burnout is a specific set of circumstances that emerge in our professional lives. And it's really characterized by three key elements. The first of which is a loss of performance. So our levels of functioning will drop when we experience that sense of burnout. Another element of that is this increased cynicism around the work. So we have that kind of sense of being distant from the work that we are doing. And the third element of this burnout experience, in addition to a drop in functioning and an increased distancing from us and the organisation that we might be working for, is that kind of sense of maybe being more distant from the goals that we seek to achieve. There seems to be that loss of meaning in terms of the work that we're doing.
So is disillusionment different, or do you get burnt out because you become disillusioned?
I think there's certainly an overlap. You know, there's a sense of disillusionment and despondency that can emerge in the context of burnout. But there are those additional elements, if you like, for burnout that distinguish it from disillusionment.
Do you think it's probably wrong to, you say in the day and age we live in, do you think it's a good idea to probably not necessarily follow social media? Because I often think it's quite false. People put these high successes, it's like people having babies and posting these wonderful pictures, and then the first time parent thinks, well, why isn't my child perfect? You know what I mean? I think social media can be a bad thing in that way.
Yeah, I think it was Mark Twain who said that comparison is the thief of joy. And social media is set up for us to engage in those forms of comparison. It's inevitable that that will happen. And we have to remember that for every one of us who might be picking up their phone to interact with social media, there are perhaps 100,000 people employed on the other side to develop the hardware, to develop the software, to develop those streams, to try to encourage us to engage more and more with it. So it's set up, if you like, to try to draw us in, and it's not necessarily a battle that is even. We are up against it in that sense. But social media isn't all bad. It can serve as a source of inspiration. It can also serve as an important source of advice. But I think we need to be diligent and sensible in our consuming of social media. I think we need to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, and we need to be careful in the amount of time we might spend in engaging in that interaction with those social media streams.
And taking out social media and other people, do you think we often set our own goals too high, and so we feel like a failure when they're not achieved?
Yeah, I think that is a risk, and we need to really work on our levels of self-compassion. And that's something that I reflect on in the Tree That Bends book, that we, if you like, have 3 different motivational modes. We have our get mode, which is about trying to pursue goals, and goals are important for helping us to achieve and feel fulfilled. So we have our get mode. We also have a threat mode, which is about us being sensitive to dangers and risks and responding appropriately to them. And importantly, we also have a 3rd motivational mode, which is the reset mode. So we have get, threat, and reset. And reset is about reviving and revitalizing, taking care of ourselves. And self-compassion is an important element of the reset mode. I would argue in modern life that there's so much emphasis placed on the get mode and about achieving, that can often spill into that threat mode where we worry, well, what will happen if I don't achieve that? And we can catastrophize and self-criticize and judge ourselves for not being enough. And we end up being human doings rather than human beings. So I think having this opportunity to shine a spotlight on the importance of getting into the reset mode will be important for the listeners as well. And the book helps the reader to walk through exercises and practices that will help really engage that reset mode and to help build that sense of self-compassion.
So get, threat and reset, GTR, and another acronym is ACT. Tell us about ACT, ACT.
Yeah, ACT is a form of psychological intervention that I use in my clinical work and the work I do with organizations. And it is an innovative, more contemporary form of cognitive behavioral therapy that listeners might be aware of, CBT. So ACT is a recent innovation in CBT, and it's about building psychological flexibility. And people appreciate the importance of physical flexibility, and we might engage in yoga and other practices to help our bodies to be malleable and supple. But we also need to develop this psychological flexibility in how we think and how we feel, and the relationship that we have with our thoughts and feelings. And psychological flexibility is this willingness to turn towards rather than suppress or avoid difficult thoughts and feelings in pursuit of what it is that truly matters to us. So ACT, places a strong emphasis on helping people to explore their sense of purpose and their personal values that they really want to bring to the fore in how they live their life. And it also recognizes that inevitably, as we work towards our sense of purpose and try to be true to our personal values, challenges will arise. And it's not about trying to avoid thoughts and feelings that might arise when those challenges show up. It's about seeing that we can shift our relationship with those experiences so they no longer block us.
Acceptance and commitment therapy, is that what it stands for?
Yeah, or sometimes acceptance and commitment training. So it's often used in high performance environments, and training, I think, is more sensible a label to give it in those contexts rather than therapy.
Yeah. And we talked about burnout being a buzzword. Something else that I hear a lot of recently is imposter syndrome. Do you think that can cause people to burn out because they don't truly believe in themselves?
Yeah, I think as we try to develop new roles and responsibilities, it's inevitable that doubts, uncertainty, and concerns will arise. We have 3 basic psychological needs. Self-determination theory is an approach that has identified these 3 psychological needs consistently across all people and different cultures. And those psychological needs are the need for autonomy and agency. So having the sense of being able to make decisions and drive things forward. Then there's also this need for social relatedness, being able to feel safe and secure in the interactions that you have with other people. And then finally, there's also the need for competency, a sense of being effective and delivering some value and making a difference. And if you think about it, when you go into a new environment, well, you don't necessarily know where your responsibilities begin and end. You might not be clear on the relationships yet that you're going to build with your colleagues, and you may not feel that competent because you haven't had the chance to develop the experiences that are going to be core to the work. So, yeah, I think imposter syndrome, if we think about it in terms of us developing those psychological needs in this new context and giving ourselves some time and kindness, so there's that self-compassion piece, that in time we will have that sense of being autonomous, about being related to those around us and feeling competent in the role.
And it sounds like it's a book, not just, I initially thought it was going to be about business and about, being successful in business, but you could use it in your everyday life just to have a better life and take care of yourself, can't you?
Absolutely, and that was a real passion for me in writing the book. I wanted it to be something that every reader could access and find engaging, dare I say enjoyable, but also enlightening. And there are stories in there. There are inspirational examples from sport, acting, music. There's a bit about my own journey with psychological flexibility. And importantly, there are also strategies, tools, techniques that the reader can use to develop their own psychological flexibility. So I hope it will be really of interest and helpful for a wide readership.
I think so too. Well, the book for our listeners is called The Tree That Bends, and we know why it's called that now. How a Flexible Mind Can Help You Thrive. It's by Dr. Ross G. White, and we're selling it on our website, TRE.radio, right now. Dr. Ross, do you have a website as well if people want to find out more?
I do. So the website for my psychology consultancy organization is www.strive2thrive. So that's the number 2 in the middle, strive2thrive.co.uk. You can also access me at www.rossgwhite.com.
Well, it's been refreshing chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Ross.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's
My
been a pleasure.
pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.